week on One Day Leader, our contestants inspire the youth to register and to vote in the upcoming elections. Good evening, namgelegile nonke njengenjwayelo ku One Day Leader uhlelo elakha abaholi benu bakusasa. My name is Pearl Shongwe, your host for this brand new exciting season of the show. The 2019 general elections are around the corner, and it brings a renewed debate about the role of citizenship and voting amongst the populace. Young people, some who may be voting for the first time, comprise a significant portion of eligible voters. However, a recent study revealed that South Africans under the age of 30 years old have the lowest levels of voter registration. That means that young people will again be underrepresented in this year's elections as compared to older people. Which leads us to tonight's radical question: should the youth who are eligible to vote be forced to do so? Now, remember, you at home, you're welcome to join the conversation by visiting our Facebook page, One Day Leader SA, to share your thoughts and comments on the topic. Also, check out our Facebook page, our Twitter page rather. It is at One Day Leader, and our hashtag is One Day Leader 7. Our leaders are set in position to tackle this issue. Let's first hear their vision statements. A very good evening, Leader 1. Your vision statement, please.
I am a disability champion, an eye for the blind and an ear for the deaf. I'm a shelter of refuge for orphans and a light of hope for widows. Alone, I'm a toothless lion, but together we can create an inclusive society for the marginalized. I am a son of the soil, an African for the Africans.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Leader 2. Your vision statement, please.
Africa is burning with hope, passion, and a bright future, of course. I had a conversation with Mother Africa the other day, and we spoke of our rich history and the bliss of a united Africa. And this led to my vision of social justice through education. South Africa, I have received the signal, and I am here and will forever be encouraged by the spirit of Mamwini Nomzamo Madikizela Mandela. This, I promise. Call me daughter of the soil.
Leader 3, welcome. It's your turn. Your vision statement, please.
If the township and village streets had a voice, they would speak up against the poor education and health systems. They would chant to put a stop to the scourge of poverty and question the inequality dynamics. South Africa, this voice speaks towards a country that is ready to close the inequality gaps and keep its ear on the ground. I know that this sounds like a dream, but I'm more than excited to announce that this is exactly how democracy first sounded like. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leader 4. Good evening. It's your turn.
In a country with high unemployment rates, fellow South Africans, let's make entrepreneurship a norm. The solutions to the country's problems do not lie on the hands of politicians. They lie on the hands of entrepreneurs. So we are all CEOs. Hashtag I believe, Kia Dumela. Forward we go.
Leader 5, you're up next. Your vision statement, please.
I am not a martyr, but I am an activist and a leader. And I believe in the fire of black love and the sweat of truth. They may refuse us free education, but our heroes, our ancestors, shall continue to raise generations abazoyithatha bayisuse and attain free education and bathathe lumhlaba. Yesterday belongs to the dead. Tomorrow belongs to the future generations. Today belongs to us now. Agent Mufirifiri at your service.
And lastly, Leader 6, your vision statement, please.
I believe in the fourth industrial revolution, a world where we are not excluded by not being able to compete with artificial intelligence. Because in this world, ladies and gentlemen, we invent it, we speak to it, and we solve problems with it. Because technology should never be a barrier to entry, but a bridge to solving our problems. I am ready because South Africa, the robots are coming, and they're coming fast.
Thank you very much, leaders. Well, there you have it, Mzansi, the top 6 finalists that we revealed to you in our previous episode. Now, last week, you at home got the chance to vote for your favorite leader. Let's take a look at our scoreboard. Ubani ohamba phambili kwamanje. This week's viewer vote sees Leader 3, Kgothatso, leading with 540 votes. Busisiwe is trailing behind with 14 votes. This means that Leader 3, Kgothatso, gets 1 point. Congratulations. Now let's take a look at our series scoreboard. Leading the pack is Kgothatso with 3 points and trailing behind is Peaceful with 0 points. Jeng and Jayelo, thank you very much for your ongoing participation. Remember, you at home, your votes certainly count. Now, on to the voting. I guess buguthi wena ngabo ngabavotela kanjani abaholi bakho bathanda kakhulu. To vote for your favorite leader, SMS his or her number to 32792. If you want to vote for Peaceful, SMS Leader 1. For Anisa, SMS Leader 2. For Kgothatso, SMS Leader 3. Griffiths, Leader 4. Busi, Leader 5. And for Webster, SMS Leader 6. Now, over to our guest judge. The National Youth Development Agency is a South African-based agency established to primarily tackle challenges that the nation's youth are faced with. On the 18th of January this year, the NYDA launched their voter registration and education campaign in partnership with the Independent Electoral Commission, which is aimed at encouraging eligible young people to register and to vote. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the CEO of the NYDA, Mr. Wasim Karim. Wasim, I'm quite keen to hear what your findings have been in terms of young people when we look at registration to vote and the willingness and the keenness on their part to participate in these upcoming elections.
Yeah, thank you very much, Pearl. Thank you for having me. So I think, when you engage with young people, it's never one size fits all for everybody. So we have different forms of engagement. Lots of young people are energetic about the future or excited. And there's young people who are apathetic, who feel that politicians in South Africa don't represent their interests, who feel that corruption is at an all-time high. And then a lot of young people who just don't understand the process. I think we picked up a lot of misunderstanding. Students who are at campus who travel from their homes, who don't understand that they will be allowed to vote at campus. They don't need to be in their voting district when they vote. That this is not the final registration weekend, that if you have missed out on it, you can still register at an IEC office. But mainly the message we've been trying to spread, and we're doing it in the form of peer-to-peer. So we have a group of young volunteers encouraging other young people to vote. But mainly what we're saying is that if you want to be an active citizen, if you want to change how South Africa works, your vote is only the start of that process. You've got to be involved in your community. You've got to be that change agent that you want to see. But it can't start if you don't cast your vote. And that's the message we've been trying to spread to young people across the country.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Wasim. Of course, let's not forget that we also have our new resident judges that you met just last week. They are Gugulethu Gugs Mshungu. She has over a decade experience in media as a talk radio anchor and writer. Currently, she serves as a deputy editor for a leading South African magazine and was the winner of the 2015 Columnist of the Year at the Legends Media Awards. And of course, Ndumiso Hadebe, an economist, entrepreneur, a faculty member of a leading SA business school, the recipient of the Gauteng Premier Excellence Business Award, and the winner of One Day Leader Season 2. Lady and gent, welcome. Hello. All right, now back to the topic of the day. Many initiatives have been enacted in recent years to persuade young people to vote. Well, let's see how this week's task relates to the above statement.
Guys, we've got a task briefing. It says, good day, leaders. Webster Morrison, you will be the leader for this task. According to a recent study, South Africans aged under 30 years old have the lowest levels of voter registration. I want you to create your own campaign that will inspire young people to get involved in this year's elections.
I really do hope and think that the youth want to have something to say. So I think it's a great topic that we have.
I don't think that the youth would get any tangible change from specifically voting. So I think that the youth, as a form of democratic accountability, which is one of the pillars of any democratic system, would be for me to boycott as a form of protest.
I think then the best place for us to go for our survey would probably be Cosmos City, because that does have the sample variation that we need between 18 and 30. That should be more than enough for us to be able to get the information that we need.
Yeah. And also areas whereby we'll find many students there. I believe institutions of higher learning will be quite ideal for this.
UNISA, it's quite registration time now, so I think we can find a number of people there.
We decided that we're going to do a sample research, and we're going to also execute a campaign video by asking individuals why they are registering to vote particularly. So in our areas of expertise and our background, Busi and myself have experience in research and in sampling. I'd like to ask you a few questions about the 2019 elections and the youth, right? Yes. So how old are you?
I'm 19. Sir.
19, and you are?
I'm 20 years old. I'm 21.
21, but you should be registered, man.
Yeah, I should.
I'm 23.
23. I want to ask you, have you registered to vote yet?
Not yet.
I didn't register, sir. I can register.
No.
Oh, wow. Why not?
I think for me it's pointless because people, they go and vote, yet there's no difference, no change. You see now we've been doing job hunting, there are no jobs, they promise us things, yet they don't deliver.
They've been in Cosmos City for such a long time, and government that they had voted for in the previous elections had not fulfilled the promises that they had made.
I'm from the clinic right now. Okay. There's no proper clinic. There's containers. Why can't they build a proper clinic for us?
So
exactly.
So this year 2019 we hands down.
Voting, I don't think is a problem. Voting improve in accountability in a democratic process. Power.
I just want to know from you, have you registered to vote?
No, because I'm from PE, so I don't know where to register in Pretoria.
Unfortunately, I haven't registered to vote.
Why are you registered to vote?
I want a better life for my country. The government must bring us good things, you see.
Most of the youth in that area weren't really interested in engaging when it came to issues of voting.
Oh, Pretoria was not easy. Where we were doing interviews, People are more comfortable off camera, so that was a bit of a challenge.
He's not doing the task, he's speaking for himself, and that's wrong.
I saw him talking to a lady. I thought he had interviewed her.
I spoke to him, and he told me that it was tough getting people.
There's a lot of words that are being said, but actions is few. So for me, I just felt that I shouldn't register.
You choose to abstain.
There's so many moves, but there's no progress.
People are really reluctant to vote because of the lack of outcomes. So the youth spoke the same type of language.
One day leader. We heard before the ad break what some of the challenges are in engaging the youth to participate in the electoral process. Many other surveys and polls have shown that young adults vote less frequently than other age groups. Now, one poll conducted by the Institute of South African Studies concentrated on students in tertiary institutions. Their study uncovered that youth apathy reflected their disillusionment with the current political landscape of unemployment, corruption, self-enrichment, poor infrastructure, and poor education. Corruption stood out as a major disincentive to voting. Now, before we take a look at this week's task and how our candidates performed, let me quickly come to Gugu. What is your expectation in terms of the task that our leaders will be tackling this week?
Well, I'm very keen to see what kind of questions our leaders are going to be asking, because I think youth apathy as a phrase doesn't tell us very much. What we're looking to get is to drill down into what is causing young people to stay away, bearing in mind that this is the most kind of politically conscientious, well-read group that is aware what is promised to them in the Constitution. So something is happening, and I'm very keen to see if our leaders ask those kinds of questions about what is it about what is happening or not happening that's making it so young people are not interested in what I think young people prize quite a lot. Voting is quite important, but there's something not happening there, and I'm hoping they ask that question.
All right, well, we'll just have to find out. Let's see the outcome of the solutions proposed by our leaders and whether they acceded or not. Let's take a look at this insert.
So we decided to host the Register to Vote campaign at UNISA because of the big demographic and the difference in demographic that we would have access to there. What we want to achieve is, firstly, we want to educate people on the power of voting, right? So we want to tell the youth why it is good for them to go out in numbers and vote and register to vote specifically.
What we would like you to do is to make an outline of your hand. At the top of it, write I pledge. And then in the center, you can either sign or you can write why you'd like to register to vote. Okay. Is that fine?
And then you move on to an Instagram cutout and take a picture. I am registering to vote for free education.
So if you can see your other colleagues want free education, others want to reduce the crime rate and violence in South Africa, so would you mind putting your pledge on our sign?
Yes.
Please come through.
When we began, I didn't think we'd meet the target because of the fact that we had such a high target, and the environment that we were in was one where, you know, students are trying to register, and most of the time, being a student myself, I know registration,
although the frustrations based on the complications that the registration led application, Mara process was very interesting, and mina in succeed because I engage and engage and then I read the conversation that meaningful and relating to the elections, not the expectations from government.
As of now, we have about 21 pledges. At the rate they're coming very well. We are intending to have about 100 by 2 o'clock. At this rate, we are very impressed. The students are very much in it for us.
The pictures and the pledges and the whole campaign, we are looking to combining it and making a video out of it so that we post it online and we further try to reach our youth group and try to encourage the people we didn't actually reach.
4, 5.
I am extremely happy with the team. I'm extremely happy with the outcomes of the campaign.
Got 102. Okay, so it's 100.
So 112.
I am very satisfied. I'm very happy with how the task turned out to be. We're supposed to complete the task around about 2 o'clock. I think by 1:30 we had reached our targets.
Well, there you have it, South Africa, a snapshot of what could be the possible youth voter turnout in this year's election. Thank you very much to UNISA for making this week's task possible. I just want to quickly come back to you, Wasim. I mean, you guys have been doing these activations, these campaigns, trying to get young people to really stand up and go out there and put their cross next to a political party of their choice. Briefly, what do you think can be expected in terms of numbers? Do you think we'll see much more young people than in past elections, or do you think it'll relatively remain the same?
Yeah, so the data says that in the last election, 2016, 34% of under 30s who were eligible voted, yeah? And I think that number stood at 16% last week, yeah? So I think if we can exceed what we did in 2016, get the number close to 50%, of those who are eligible to vote being on the voters roll, I think we would have done well. I think that's the target figure that we're all chasing. So hopefully we get very close to that number.
All right, fantastic stuff. Now, coming up next, our judges will evaluate the task undertaken by our leaders. Kodwa masieni ey'tolo sobonana masibuye. Welcome back to One Day Leader Season 7. Khona la SABC 1 Mzansi for sure. Igama nginguPearl Wagwashongwe. All over the world, throughout history, young people have driven social change. One example is the 1976 political uprising that helped propel the apartheid government towards the country's first democratic elections in 1994. Without the actions of young people, the world would look very, very different. To all youth in South Africa, including myself, the ball really is in our court to make that change. Before we start with our first debate for the evening, let's quickly find out our judges' thoughts on how our leaders performed on their task. And Dumiso, I'll quickly come to you. Your reflections on how our leaders performed, please.
I think I'm more interested in asking a specific question to the leaders as it relates to the specific task. I'm more interested in gaining a sense, when you guys were busy with that activation, did you get a sense that there is indeed a fundamental understanding of a democratic system of governance? And if you did, Griffiths, could you please give me a sense, was there sufficient understanding of this democratic form of governance given your activation?
Yeah, the youth is very much in for this, but unfortunately they are disappointed of the fact that they've been voting, but the results are not being shown. So they feel that there's no longer a reason to go there. So we need to convince them more.
Thank you very much, judges. Now let's have a look at the rules of engagement before we get our first debate underway.
These are the rules for the One Day Leader debate. You have 30 seconds to state your vision statement, 60 seconds for the opponent to challenge, and 30 seconds to conclude your debate.
We get into our very first debate, and the first one will be between Khuthatso, Leader 3, and Busi, Leader 5. I'll quickly ask Wasim to let us know which contestant will be for and which will be against.
Yeah, let's have Leader 5 for and Leader 3 against.
Today's debate topic is, should the youth who are eligible to vote be forced to do so? Your time starts now.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me alleviate the chances of a single-sided story by highlighting that democracy is about achieving a greater balance in society so that there is a greater equality for all. And by so saying, I say that there is a reason why the youth are not voting. And it's about time that we recognize the reason. The main reason is because they feel that they're not being represented in parliament. Ladies and gentlemen, now research has shown a huge difference in youth participation between the national and the municipal elections. And they have also termed the municipal elections as being the
Thank you very much. Your time is up. You leaders have 60 seconds to engage.
I have a question. In Belgium, since 1949, citizens have been forced to vote, and if they don't vote, they're given moderate fines. If they're not given moderate fines, and if they don't vote 4 times consecutively, then they are banished from voting altogether. Why would that system not be appropriate in South Africa and in the context of youth not participating in elections?
What I am saying is that this system is appropriate in South Africa because our constitution tells us that everybody should be aligned with their citizenship method, because everybody is supposed to vote. What makes you a citizen if you're not voting in this instance, Lucy?
If I may ask, you do know that the Constitution does give us the freedom of choice, but now the interesting thing about the freedom of choice is that it prescribes to individuals the opportunity and the autonomy to perform an option selected from at least 2 available options. If government were to give people 2 available options, you either vote or you essentially have that right stripped from you. Why would that be a problem?
It would be a problem because we are trying to build a South Africa that is able to understand
Thank you very much. Your time is up. Khuthatso, you have the remaining 30 seconds.
Okay, such inequalities undermine the effectiveness and legitimacy of democracy. How is it still democracy when voting is not a decision? Voting is supposed to be a decision at the end of the day. If I feel that I'm staying away from the polls, that's my decision to make. Now, we are saying as the youth that persuade us into voting. Do not compel us into voting using the same power that we gave you as the youth. What we are saying is that keep your ears on the ground and listen to what we want as the youth. We are saying that represent us in parliament. What the One Day Leader is doing is exactly what the government should be doing. Promoting voting the youth.
Thank you very much. Leader 5, it's your turn. You have 30 seconds.
The reason why I raised the notion of freedom of choice with Khotadzo is because of the fact that with government prescribing 2 choices, we still get to exercise our freedom of choice, because any healthy democracy needs a high voter turnout. Otherwise, these powers will surely serve a small proportion of people and a small proportion of voters. Over 30 countries around the world already invoke the notion of compulsory voting. Why not South Africa? In Belgium, the fact that 90% of their population engages in votes means that they practice.
Time's up. Thank you very much, leaders. You have 60 seconds to engage on the topic.
What could essentially happen is that we will have the youth moving into those polls and spoiling the ballots, because one, they are being forced to vote against what they want. They are not being given a chance to say that I'm abstaining from this and this is my political reason. I want you to explain to me how you'll solve that should it happen.
And that would not be a problem, South Africa. What I am proposing is that we introduce an online voting app that would be free, secure, and available along with available on good app stores. Now, this app will fulfill 2 functions. Not only will the app let you exercise your democratic vote, but it could also provide a profile for every party candidate. May I finish answering your question? For every party candidate and a brief summary, but specifically about people who don't want to vote. What the app will also be able to do is allow people to click none of the above, which would show political parties that they're not interested in participating in the political elections. But not voting clearly is not an option. Yes, Khotadzo.
What I wanted to say is that what you're looking for would be participation and not effectiveness. But the youth want effectiveness. They want the government to listen to them.
Time is up. Thank you very much. Busi, you have 30 seconds.
With youth looking for effectiveness and youth looking for participation, what they could do is that the youth, through voting, can put the youth in power through whichever party by coming to constitute an intra-party power brokering bloc. This will help to push parties to act in their interests consistently and cross-class, and above all, create a better effect. So essentially, we can create these cross-blocks as the youth in order for us to find our own representation once we participate in voting. It is important to vote right, but it
Time
is
is
also
up. Thank you very much, Lucy. Okay, Ndumiso, what a way to kick off our first debate for this evening. I think from last week they've stepped it up a notch. I hope you agree with me. Your reflections on that first debate.
Quite certainly. I think the delivery as well has been on point, and then they gave each other sufficient time to engage each other's ideas. It was less intrusive as last week. I think as well, I'm glad that there are elements of research that I heard in the specific debate, and I think it contributed a lot to the weighting of a specific candidate. And I think as well, some of the ideas that came through around this specific question were also quite innovative, and those are the kind of ideas that we're looking for going forward.
All right, I want the verdict. We want the verdict. South Africa is waiting.
A fantastic start to the show, and very well debated by both leaders, but this debate is going to go to Busisiwe.
All right, thank you very much. Congratulations, Leader 5. Now, for you at home, the voting lines are officially opened and will only be closed on Monday afternoon. Nikumbule, your votes will be revealed at the top of next week's episode. Umasbuye Idolo, we get to our second round of debates. Namgele kungubo yetu eshushu kakhulu. I-One Day Leader ithetha nabantu abatsha. Thank you so much for staying with us. The show grooms young people's potential so that they can become the leaders of tomorrow. Today we are discussing youth participation. Now it's time for us to get into our second debate, and it's going to be between Griffiths and Peaceful. All right, I'm going to ask Ndumiso to please let us know who's going to be for and who's going to be against.
Griffiths, you will be against, and Peaceful, you will be for.
All right, you guys know the rules of engagement by now. Peaceful, your 30 seconds start now.
Yes, first of all, I'd like to admit that we are managing a failing system as a government. But I don't think it's time for one to contribute to the failure. I mean, if we have to check at states like Libya, I don't want South Africa to get to that position. So, yes, the government should force youth to vote, simply because if someone is offering to save your life, you need one who's going to exercise authority like any other parent in terms of using African style of parenting. So I agree that, yes, the youth should be forced to vote. Simply.
Thank you very much. You guys have 60 seconds to engage.
Peaceful, saying the youth must be forced. Who should force them?
Force is not coercive. I think you're speaking in terms of coercive. It's going to be institutional. Hence, institutions, for example, IEC, that's an institutional force. It's not coercive. So the force there is good force because it has a purpose.
What will the UN say about this? South Africa forcing the youth to vote?
Unfortunately, this is not a UN charter, which is the use of force against
Remember,
states.
you don't live in isolation. You don't live alone.
But UN addresses the use of force against states. That's Article 2.4 of the UN Charter. But right now, we're speaking of good force, which is, it has a purpose. Let's ignore the morale and look at the purpose.
Are you saying you should fail to convince me, therefore take me by force? Are you that violent and aggressive?
Your parent will always force you to go to school because he knows what's best for you. Same applies to government. They know what's best for you.
The very same government that is not giving youth jobs and unemployment is high. Entrepreneurs are not being assisted. We start again in the market.
Change is a process, not an event. You need to give them time to manage the progress.
You want to use me to give you change, but you're not benefiting me.
Thank you very much. Peaceful, you have the remaining 30 seconds.
Yes, I understand that we might not be providing jobs, we might not be providing what you're looking for. But what I believe is that we can always appoint a better person or a better government. We can't blame democracy. We need to blame the people responsible. And I have a right and I have a vote which can give me the power to put the right person in power. Simple as that.
Thank you very much. The tables are turned. Leader 4, 30 seconds. Starts now.
South Africa, we should know how to answer right questions. The question is, why are we not voting? Get why. Don't force me, understand why. Just because I'm above 18 does not give you a right to force me. If I'm above 18 and I'm able to drink, you don't have the right to force me to drink. Do not force me. Speak to me. Engage. The government and whoever parties, they must know how to convince the youth. If the donkey doesn't want to drink the water, it will not drink. I can still go there and
Thank you very much. Your 60 seconds are up. You have 60 seconds, rather, to now debate.
Well, I really love the fact that you're using a donkey as an example. But I believe the South African youth is so liberated that they cannot be associated with donkeys. They are more smarter than that and they can do better.
That's why we should not force South Africans. It should be their choice. Remember, we're not running a banana republic here, Chief.
As much as I understand we're not running a banana republic, but what I'm trying to say to you is, yes, I can't force you to vote, but I can be able to show you what to do.
You agree with me?
Yes, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm saying that the force must be there, but it should be institutional and it should have a purpose attached to it.
Force is force. That's why our women are crying that men are imposing force.
No,
force is never right.
Force comes in context, and this one is force with an intention.
Can we define force here? Literature.
We are speaking of should they force them to vote. So I'm speaking of force with a purpose. I can't define force, I can define purpose. And the purpose of government is to do good for you.
That's against my will. My will. You're forcing me.
But the moment when you speak of will, the government also has a better will because they're concerned about your future.
The government is not appealing and convincing me.
But if they
Time is up. Thank you very much. Leader 4, you have the remaining 30 seconds.
So I totally disagree. We as the youth are not useless, but we are rather useless. We are underutilized. People should not fail to convince us, then force us to do things. We should be convinced. Convince me, then I'm coming. By the way, let's all unite and go vote, not by force, by will. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. I'm so glad I'm not a judge. Dugugu, I can just see by the look on your face, you want to say something, so go ahead.
I'm most impressed about the level at which you guys are engaged in each other. Marked difference from the first episode. Good-natured banter, being kind but still being critical, which I think is important. Allowing each other to speak, to finish the point, even if you don't agree with it. Very lovely. And even the engaging with each other's points has been, I think, much better than in the first season. So well done on that. Even though I think the research, the numbers, the data wasn't available, you were able to talk through your ideas, your thinking, your logic, which I think is very, very important. So a very impressive debate. Well done.
All right, thank you very much, Ndumisa. We're looking for the verdict. We want to know who took this debate. I can see you guys are still exchanging notes. Who took that second debate?
So who took the debate in this instance is Griffiths.
Okay, awesome stuff. Thank you very much, and well done, Griffiths, on that. It's time for us to get into our final debate, and that is going to be between Webster, Leader 6, and Leader 2, Anissa. Let me quickly go to Ndumiso. Who will be for and who will be against?
In this specific debate, Webster for, Anissa against.
All right, thank you very much. Anissa, your 30 seconds start now.
If there's something that the generation of the 1976 Soweto youth uprising taught me, was that the youth have the power at any time to bring a country to its knees. With our current youth population of eligible voters sitting at 17.7 million, and the majority of us still don't feel the need to head to the tolls, then surely we are doing an injustice. But believe me when I say that the only way that we can be taken seriously is if we boycott these elections, because that is a way to send a message as a collective. South Africa, the youth cannot be forced to vote against their democratic will, because
Thank you very much. You have 60 seconds to engage.
Anissa, it's funny that you bring up the 1976 uprising, because those are the very people that are forcing their children to go to Afrikaans schools when they just revolted or then revolted against. Why do you think that when someone has the autonomy that they should still be forced and that autonomy should be overlooked?
But Webster, I'm opposing this issue. Can you rephrase your question, perhaps?
Anissa, the 1976 uprising tells you that individuals spoke against the Afrikaans issue, right? Why do you think that individuals should then not be forced to do something? Why should that autonomy be valued when they don't understand the historical context?
Okay, so I'm saying that we have a constitution that deals with issues of rights and stuff, and it is enshrined in our constitution that we have a right to choose to vote and a right to choose not to vote. Hence, I am against this forcing of youth to vote.
Sure, but people that
Time
aren't...
is up. Thank you very much. Anissa, you have the remaining 30 seconds to close your argument.
Something changed in the youth post-1994. We sort of became detached from the political world. But today we must stand tall and say that it is our time now to reinvigorate our democracy. Fellow youth, it is relatively simple. I know that we cannot ignore the youth unemployment curse that surrounds us. But let me tell you something. The next time that a politician comes to your door, make sure that they leave that house with a CV. And the next time you go to those polls, take your CV with you. And if you cast a vote, put that CV in there, and they will hear us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The tables are turned. Leader 6, your 30 seconds start now.
Panel, it is important to understand that forcing the youth to vote is something that is important in the fourth industrial revolution, i.e. what Busi said to you when she wants to create an app. What we tell you is that something like the no vote, no job, or no job, no vote campaign is something that is essentially beautiful, because if you have to force the youth to do something, it should be in the form of an exchange. That it should never be, the onus should never be on the youth to prove that the government is efficient, but the onus should be on the youth to tell the government that they are inefficient by virtue of telling them that there should be more accountability.
Thank you very much. 60 seconds.
Okay, so two things here that I want to touch on. I'll touch on the app just now. But I want to know, why is it that you expect youth to go and vote, whereas the same ballot box finds itself in communities where service delivery does not even touch? So how exactly do you expect those same youth to go and vote?
Ladies and gentlemen, it is important to understand that the context of today, that the youth is the most intelligent demographic. These individuals are not the same people that she talks about in her historical context, because these are people that are able to change specifically within their communities. They're able to speak against governments and tell them that they are inefficient and unaccountable.
Not all youth live in urban areas, but let me get to the app. You cannot enforce an app. The same thing about this ballot box finding the youth. Not everybody has access to a cell phone. Not everybody has access to a laptop. So this app situation is just not working
Anissa, what you're currently doing is you're trying to win the debate by populism and propaganda.
Not populism.
It's
you
not about
suggested
that. What
an
I'm
app.
telling
How
you
is it
essentially,
populism,
allow me to
though?
speak.
But
I'm telling you that
suggested an
individuals
app,
like the youth are not swayed by populism and propaganda. Us
Okay,
actively
how
forcing
does a
them to
person...
use...
Time is up. Thank you very much. Webster, you have the remaining 30 seconds.
Ladies and gentlemen, the idea of forcing the youth to vote is something that is essential. It is one that speaks against governments that are unaccountable and inefficient. An idea that you are able to protest against governments that are unaccountable instead of staying away from voting stations. By forcing these individuals, ladies and gentlemen, we ask the most intelligent individuals within South Africa to overturn. Because, ladies and gentlemen, for far too long, we've heard Anissa speak propaganda and populism. We are tired. We win this debate.
Thank you very much. I am both impressed and thoroughly entertained. But Googs, your reflections, please.
So I think a very good engagement and a very good attempt at kind of unpacking each other's argument. A bit short on the research, on kind of the data, the stats, but I think we make up for that with delivery, with passion, with enthusiasm. And again, I think quite a nice tone, even though there was very strong disagreement, even when you were very critical of each other, still very civil, still very mature. You allowed each other for the most part to finish, which means we got a good sense of your arguments, which is great, which is also great for you because we hear your arguments. So again, with your debate as well, well done.
All right, thank you very much. And the verdict, please, Ndumiso.
The verdict in this specific debate, Anissa has taken this debate.
All right, thank you very much. Congratulations to you, Anissa. Viewers, please continue to send us your comments by visiting our Facebook page. It's One Day Leader SA to share your comments on the topic. Also visit our Twitter page at One Day Leader and hashtag One Day Leader 7. Masbuye Dolo, we find out how our studio audience will vote for their favorite leader. Ningakhohlwa nalapha emakhaya futhi nisenalo ithuba lokuthi nani nimvotele umholi enimthanda kakhulu. Those voting lines will close on Monday at 12 midday. So vote by SMSing the word leader and their number to our SMS line 32792 at a cost of 150 and SMS. Ningabaleki siyabuya. Welcome back to One Day Leader. This is the final segment of our show tonight. We're about to hear what the judges have to say about their overall impressions of our leaders' contributions this evening. They'll comment on their debates and how they've tackled the issue. Ndumiso, you're first up. Just your overall parting words.
There's definitely an improvement from last week. Delivery is certainly something that they've been quite strong in. I was actually impressed as well in this specific episode that there were elements of research that were incorporated here and there. We want more of that. Sometimes we find that in the rebuttals, we are rebutting opinions and not necessarily empirical evidence, as it were. So we would want more of that because by you being here, we're assuming that you're the most enlightened, the most conscious, and the most well-read young people in South Africa. So the expectation where the content is concerned is up here.
All right, thank you very much.
I do agree with Ndumiso that overall, I think there's been a marked improvement in how you are debating each other, engaging with the question. I also think this is such a fantastic question, such a meaty question. And I think, you know, there could never be enough time to unpack all of it. But I think you did well to zero in on particular issues in being for or against the issue, especially where, for instance, some of you didn't have research or data that you were able to then argue your particular point and explaining your point, which I think is great. But I do think, you know, a bit more engagement where possible with data, with numbers, is always a good thing. But again, and I said earlier, a very big improvement from our first episode, which is encouraging and exciting.
Fantastic. And lastly, Wasim, just your parting words.
Yeah, so I think, you know, South Africa is a young democracy. Sometimes we forget that, yeah? We're also figuring out this democracy thing, yeah? But we have a young population. They need to own their democracy. And if you think owning your democracy means casting your vote every 5 years, you're pretty much wrong, yeah? I don't see young people involved in politics. Yeah, and even if you don't want to be involved in politics, why are you not being a community volunteer? You know, why are you not contributing to the development of South Africa? All of these things are pathways to success. Yeah, and that's what I want to encourage amongst young people. The NYDA and the rest of government will put our hand there to pull you up. We want to stop giving handouts and we want to start doing those hand-ups for young people.
Indeed. Thank you very much. And I certainly hope that the young people of Mzansi hear that it's all about being an active citizen. What are you doing to change your current circumstance and the world around you? All right, it is time for us to find out which leader presented the strongest arguments and solutions for the topic today, but that is per the studio audience. Now, remember, our studio audience voted for only one of the 3 leaders who won their respective debates. So not all 6 leaders were in the running for this. Thank you very much to our studio audience. You guys voted well. Congratulations, Anissa, Leader 2. You took that vote from the studio audience. Congratulations, Leader 2, and well done. Now, that's how the audience voted for their favorite candidates. Thanks so much to our audience for voting tonight and our judges for their adjudication. Let's now have a look at this week's episode's overall scoreboard.
Leading the pack in this episode is Khotatso and Anissa with 3 points each. Peaceful is trailing behind with no points to his name.
Now, remember, at home, we'll be showing your voting results at the top of next week's episode. Voting lines are open until Monday afternoon at 12 midday. Ngithanda ukubonga our candidates, our judges, our studio audience. Kanti ke nalapha emakhaya for joining us on this week's episode. Ngeviki elandelayo, we'll be discussing yet another thought-provoking topic. I leave you with this protest slogan. Youth are the solution, not the problem. Nothing about us without us is for us. From myself, Upho Wagwashongwe, Umtimanzi, Ubambo Lunyu, Mageza Ngelbisi, Mandia Seti, and the rest of the One Day Leader team. As Good night.